Hey, I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Ethan.
I watched the first half of American Fiction.
I watched the second half of American Fiction.
And this is the other half.
So glad Monk's back.
Oh, yeah. Big fan of Monk. Did you see the
It's
Monk
a jungle
movie?
out there! I did not see the new Monk movie.
You watched Monk when you were growing up.
I loved Monk when I was a kid. That was like my only. That was the only police procedural I think I liked because Monk is just a fun character.
He's so goofy. He's so silly. What's
he's so
wrong
silly.
with him?
Oh,
There's
man.
something wrong with his stupid little brain.
Oh, it's so funny.
Well, you know why his name is Monk
In this movie? I have no idea why his name is
Really?
Monk. I have no idea. Nope.
His first name is Thelonious, I believe, which is a reference to Thelonious Monk, the jazz musician.
Oh.
Yeah, so everyone just calls him Monk for short.
Never knew his real first name.
There you
they
go.
never talk about it. Is
Yeah.
that his book name?
It's his book. What do you mean his book name?
The name he puts on his like normal books.
No. His book name is Stag Early.
But that's his like alternate book.
Oh,
name.
I thought that's what you were referring to.
No, what's his regular book name?
Thelonious.
Oh, literally just.
I'm pretty
okay,
sure
yeah.
it's full on Thelonious. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd read a book with Thelonious on the title. That's a cool fucking name.
I think that's a cool fucking name.
I think Monk's a cool name.
Monk's a pretty
cool name.
too.
It's cool to see Jeffrey Wright here being called Monk.
I'm just happy to see Jeffrey Wright in a starring role. I love that motherfucker. Everything he does, like honestly, he was the best part of Westworld.
Yeah.
You know, everything he's in, it's just like, oh, look at him.
He's so
amazing.
good. I love that guy. He's great in Casino Royale. Like, he was great.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
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 So this movie.
What'd you think about it?
Yeah.
What'd you think about it?
I liked it.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I liked it quite a bit, but didn't like, I wasn't like head over heels for it.
Yeah, me neither. It
But-
kind of reminded me a bit of, not 100%, it's better than this, but it reminded me a little bit of like Coda a little bit, where I'm just like, what is this doing here? Like,
yeah, I
you
can
know?
kind of see that. It's definitely saying more than Coda was.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And it's a way, it's really that is limiting this movie. It's like it's a way better shot. The acting is way better.
You know, I honestly forgot about Coda until you mentioned it.
It's that won the best picture that year.
That's such a wild
that was
bunch.
that is a best picture winner right there. But you're just look at this movie and then you compare it to all the other ones. You're just like, I don't know. I feel like this movie isn't really even like. I also feel like the message it's saying it feels a little like dated a little bit too.
I think you might think the message at the very end is pretty interesting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Because this is based on a book that was written in like 2001 or 2002.
Oh, wow,
like
really?
an old book.
Yeah.
Which is granted, this is an issue like the movies and stuff that this is like talking about. And I guess there's really no issue to like there is still the continued issue of like whenever you see like a black story, it centers around like around black people. It's like usually like black pain,
Yes.
it's black suffering. It's not often you just see like people having fun.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, honestly, this is going way off.
There are movies like that, but white people ignore them.
Well, I was gonna say like one of my favorite like Peele's Jordan Peele's done a really amazing job of this with like Nope, although it's a horror movie, so much just like siblings having a good time.
Yeah.
Like joy. That's good shit to see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess white people probably didn't watch it. I love that movie. It's one of the best movies of the year. But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. Like there's something about this movie. I was just like, it just didn't like everything's working pretty well. I think what was surprising to me is like how little it actually has to do with the premise of the movie. Am I half of the movie? So much of this movie's more about like his mom is sick or his sister or his
they have
brother.
to make like the conceit of this movie work, right?
But
They have to give him
I was like, the A plot is him writing the book and the B plot is like his family. And that's not true. It's like the B plot is the book and the A plot is all the family stuff.
Yeah.
At least in my half of the movie.
I think that's probably an accurate way to look at it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the plot of him and the book does kind of
It intertwines.
reflect and affect his family life in some ways.
Right. I guess he is writing the book sort of about his dad as well, I think, right? Yeah.
And this thing is like when I got out of this movie and like stopped watching it, obviously is what I mean.
I got out of it.
I was like, I did really enjoy watching this movie,
Yeah.
but none of it like really left me with like, oh man, I'm gonna think about it. Well, no, I will think about this movie for a while. But it's very hard to put my finger on why I didn't like fall head over heels for this.
Yeah.
Because like I think it's a really funny movie. There's some really good.
There are some really funny moments.
It is
in this movie.
really funny.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it should have been stuck more to the funny parts. I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly do think there's moments, and this is why I compare it to Coda. There's moments that just feel very like saccharine or very like cheesy or like and in that way feel dated, you know? Like the music starts playing and then the mom's doing some sad thing and you're just like, what about that book you wrote? Like I kind of want to learn more about that book he's writing.
Yeah,
you know?
it does have that kind of like overly cozy vibe.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like Dad.
Kind of, but it's not too much.
Not too much.
It's not too much. It's not grating.
Yeah.
You know, to the point. And I think there is some genuine good character moments between him and his family.
I like him and his brother.
Yeah, Cliff.
Yeah,
Cliff's cool.
Him and his sister.
Is that his sister? I had no idea who she was.
It's not a sister that you see in your half of the movie.
Why do I see in my half of the movie?
You don't see his sister.
Oh, okay. I see, but she seems like she's part of family.
Yeah. No, she's just some
Lorraine?
Coraline.
Oh no, Coraline's his like girlfriend.
Oh no, that's not his sister. Lorraine is like somebody that helps around the house that they're paying.
That's so interesting because they treat her like she's family.
He says that she's family, but they do pay her.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, she's essentially like family, but they pay her.
But I assume she looks after his mom.
She does, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think she's really a caregiver. I think she just sort of looks after the house as well and like manages, like keeps things clean or whatever. He's clearly from money as well, you know. Like his dad was a doctor, I think. Is that right?
Monk. I don't know much about his dad except he was an angry guy.
His dad was a doctor. His dad was a doctor. We learn a little bit in my half of the movie, so I guess I'll tell you a little bit.
I guess
how
we
my
could
movie
start with
starts.
your half of the movie, and then we can learn a little bit more.
Movie opens with him teaching a class,
Mm-hmm.
and he writes a book title on the board. The book title has the N-word in it, and there's a white girl in the class, and she's like, "Hey, I don't like that you wrote that word on the board," and he's like, "Yeah, well, I got over it, so you should too." And then she like storms out.
What a weird thing to say. Okay.
I know. And then he gets called into like the principal's office or the president's office. What the fuck? The guy that runs the school.
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
love the holdovers. Yeah.
Yes. And he's just like, "Hey, Monk, we're going to give you a leave of absence because this stuff keeps happening, basically. Like it's clear that you are.
So what was his purpose of writing this book title? What did he say?
He's a teacher. So he's teaching this book to the students. He teaches like Southern like books, like books that are written in the American South. And he's like, because of that, this word is going to come up. So like, let's just get used to it and get over it.
It's like when we have to read Tom Sawyer.
It's like when you read Tom Sawyer,
like,
or Huckleberry Finn.
And you're like, okay,
yeah, exactly. And so and this scene, honestly, it was funny. I liked his like response to her, but it was also just like, at first I was like, are we supposed to go like, oh, these fucking kids nowadays, you know? But no, I actually think later on, there's a really great part where he says like, I don't even think that like race exists. And he says that just as he's like hailing a cab and the cab like drives by him and doesn't pick him up.
There's so many good moments of that.
That's such a good shit. Like that's like that, I feel like encapsulates who Monk is basically, I think. Yes. So. But we learn that he is a author as well, but he writes like mythology books or something, like nerd books, apparently is what I've learned. I think that's what he's learned, what he writes.
What's his name again? Thedius?
Thelonious.
Yeah, that motherfucker writes.
Yeah, that's
Wizards
fair.
and shit is gonna be absolutely his game. Come on.
And so he says that the last book he read was was passed on because it isn't a black book. He says quotes. And he says that he doesn't believe in race. And then he goes to a book festival where him and a bunch of other like nerd book writers are all doing like a panel and nobody shows up for it.
Yeah.
And he's like, why is nobody showing up for this? It's such like a weak turnout. And they're like, well, you know, we're up against Sintara, who's played by Issa Rae.
Yeah.
And she's written a black book, a very cliche book that Monk hates. Because it's one, very popular, but two, also sort of like he thinks is like really it's pandering to a wide audience, trying to make them, you know, feel like, I don't know, like having like certain types
bad.
of themes.
Yeah.
Yes. Blah 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 blah. It's very popular. He visits his sister Lisa. She's a doctor.
Never see her.
You don't. She's going through a divorce and she's taken up smoking again. They arrive home.
Seems not very doctorly of her.
It isn't very doctorly, but she's like, I got to, because I freaking got divorced and I'm so stressed out. They arrive home. They meet their mom, who's showing signs of dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Lorraine, who's someone that helps her out around the house. Lisa tells Monk that their dad used to cheat on their mom with white women.
Okay.
Monk goes to, this part was silly. Monk goes to a bookstore and he's like he's like wearing sunglasses and he's like, hey, do you guys have any books by Thelonious I can't remember his name, the last name is. Do you have any books written by me? But it's not me. It's another. It's the guy.
Yeah, he's
it's this guy.
someone else.
He's trying to be somebody else. And they're like, yeah, sure. And he takes him over to the African American Studies section. And he's like, why is it in here? These books aren't African American Studies. And he's the guy running the bookstore is like, well, I guess it's probably because the author's a black guy. And he's like, yeah, he is a black guy. I'm the author. They don't belong here. And he's like, well, I'm just like a guy that works here. So like, I don't know what to do. Like, we're just told where to put the books.
That's the thing is like, a monk is simultaneousy a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
absolutely a dickhead.
Yeah.
For like no reason. He's just so full of himself and his like, everyone's met this person that's like an artist and it's just like everything else is shit. You know, what I do is great, real work here.
Yeah,
I don't want to be put in a bucket with everyone else, and I think that's fair.
That's totally fair.
Like the thing is he has points. And you're like, yeah, I agree with that.
I totally agree.
But he goes about it in such an asshole way.
Why are you yelling at the guy running the fucking like Barnes and Noble?
Exactly.
Like,
He's just
it's a big box bookstore.
Yeah.
Like,
Is it literally a Barnes and Noble?
It's like a Barnes and Noble.
Okay, so it's a big store. It's not like an indie store.
It's not like an indie store.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's like, this is a big box bookstore. Like, I'm told where to put the books. And so then he makes a big like hubbub about it. He grabs his books and he goes over to where he wants to put them. And he's like, sir, I'm just gonna put them back.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And then up until now, I'm like, oh, this is a pretty funny scene. And then his sister shows up out of nowhere. And it's just like, Monk, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And then we just cut to the next scene. I'm like, why was she there? Like,
maybe they were meeting or something?
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm like,
Okay.
what is she even doing here? She has to be there because the next scene has her in it.
Okay.
And he has to be like interrupted, like moving the books back. Like, how else do you end the scene? But I'm just like, what was she like? Were they planning on meeting up here?
I guess. And he was
I
just
don't
like, I'm
know.
gonna see what my books are. You know,
I don't know. So then they go on a little like
You're gonna
lunch
say date. You're gonna say
date.
date. You said they was gonna date a sister.
He's gonna date his sister.
Nice.
Look, man,
That's why she's not in this half.
I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you all about it.
Uh-oh.
And so they go out and they talk about how like money's tight. We talk about their brother Cliff, who just got divorced. He came out of the closet. And then they're sort of just like talking and talking. And then suddenly Lisa starts like coughing. And then she starts getting a heart attack. And she fucking dies.
Whoa! Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like, no, Lisa's not going to die. That's crazy. Why would she die? She's like,
people die randomly all the time, dude.
I know, man. I know. But it really felt fucking like, what the fuck was the point of this? Like, give her a little bit more to do before she fucking dies.
Well, the thing is like, you have to show that Mike, not Mike.
Wow.
Excuse me.
Wow.
That Mike's life sucks.
Wow.
No, Monk's life
this
sucks.
guy who's like up on his high horse about fucking art. Yeah.
His life fucking sucks. And there's no reason he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
and it's just
Mike.
like, that Mike guy, yeah. He's like, oh, so American fiction's so pandering.
You are right though. Like Monk, it's just like Monk needs to be in a position of desperate position where he's like, all right, finally I'm gonna write this book that caters to like all the worst aspects of fiction that I don't like, right? But like, what a fucking really painful way of doing it. It's just like your fucking sister dies, your mom gets fucking like, you know, like Alzheimer's, like, you know, you gotta sell the house.
Oh, you're saying it's like some really bad shit that happens to someone, and
It's
none
all
of it
just
has to
happens
do.
so in succession. He lost his job.
Shit happens,
I know
man.
that shit happens. It just feels really like, I don't know. It just feels a little cliche in this
A
movie.
little cliche, almost like pandering to
Yeah, I
specific
know,
people.
I know,
That's
I
the point of
know.
it, right?
Is
It's
it?
supposed to be like, well, his life sucks in the same way. It's just as like all the people in these other books that are supposed to be, you know.
Is that
kind of
what
like
this is
African
supposed to be
I
doing?
think that's what it's supposed to be doing. Is like
Well, then they did
his
a good
life.
job.
His life sucks.
Yeah.
But it's not in the way that these books would portray it, right?
Right.
Like it's just standard people stuff.
That's fair.
You know, like everyone experiences this, no matter what your background
That's
is.
fair. Yeah.
Of your sister just randomly dying after a
Absolutely
Barnes
insane.
and Noble's experience.
Dead. And then they're like spreading her ashes at the beach. She has this like silly, like, it's kind of crazy. She already has like something to be read out to people. And I'm like, damn, like you were really preparing for yourself to like die early. It's crazy. But yeah, they're like reading her like
It's responsible.
she's very
Maybe she's a doctor. She's a lot of death.
She knows. So they're reading it out and then they're like spreading the ashes. And then there's this like one white guy that shows up. He's like, "Are you guys spreading human remains at the beach?" And they're like, "Get out of here, Philip! You fucking suck!" And then like in the background is Jeffrey Wright like spreading the ashes. He's like, "Yeah, fuck out of here, dude! fucking asshole. You're always this fucking douchebag. And it kind of felt like an episode of like Detroiters or something.
It does feel like that.
Like, it's just like everyone's just screaming and dogfighting. Like, to be fair, he deserves it. It's just like we're in the middle of this like really solemn scene, and then all of a sudden everyone's just like calling him an asshole. Like,
I like the comedy in this
great. It was
movie a
very
lot.
funny.
It's really funny.
It was a really good bit. And so yeah, she suddenly dies. Blah blah blah. He talks to Cliff, who offers him some sleep meds because Cliff is a plastic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He also gave sleep meds to their mom because she needed to fall asleep, I guess. But I'm like, I don't know if you should give sleep meds to somebody who is experiencing like Alzheimer's.
Maybe it's fine.
I guess so.
In sleep, you might have some cool dreams. Remember something. I don't know.
That's true. It's revealed that their dad shot himself in this house, and the mom found him. And Cliff also knows that their dad had affairs. Their mom is now falling in and out of consciousness, leaving the tub running over, like water's running off the tub.
Yeah.
This part was really silly. I don't know, because like you see water dripping from like the ceiling, and the music that's playing is like really goofy. It's like do 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 do, and I was just like, oh boy, now one more thing to have to worry about. The it's raining outside and it's leaking, and then they go upstairs and you see the mom and she's like fucking comatose on the toilet as like water's coming out of the tub, and all of a sudden here comes like the really emotional like piano music. I'm just like, this is not like, you're trying to manipulate me way too much. Like, you fucking pick a lane. Like, like either don't have music in the earlier scene or don't have music here.
It's trying to get you, dude. It's
really
trying to get
working.
you.
It's
trying though, which is like what the
I was wriggling out of
what
it.
these movies are supposed to do, right?
I guess so. Monk talks to the neighbor who is a lawyer. This is Coraline. And
okay, that explains why he's like, I'm gonna go to the house across the street.
yes. And we learn that Coraline is married, but she tells Monk later on that they are going to get a divorce. Like, they're in the process of starting to get a divorce.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm like, that feels like a lie. I don't know if that's true. I don't know, man.
Hey, that's a risky one.
We have seen so many divorces in this movie up until this point, and we've also seen a lot of like people cheating on their you know, spouses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, movie logic shows that I think she's probably lying to Monk. Probably not. I don't know,
but maybe.
But
the evidence so far
really fucking feels like she is. She also says
there's all that
this
goofy
shit.
music playing. It was like, I'm cheating on my husband with this guy named Monk.
How'd you like the music in this movie? Did it ever?
I never
really
even thought about it. It felt like it was fine.
All right. What next? After a very hard talk with with a doctor about the mom's Alzheimer's, he returns home, drinks, and starts to write a black book of his very own. It's a scene between two men.
So is he like pissed off? He's just like,
he's just drunk and like, well, he's like at the end of his rope, and he's like,
just
you
like,
know what?
fuck
Let's
this.
let
I'm
out
gonna
some
write some-
steam.
yeah.
Right. So he starts writing, and it's like between a gangster and an older man. The older man is played by Keith David.
Also, do a reenactment of this?
We see what he's writing
Oh, that's pretty
basically
funny.
in the room with him, and he interacts with the characters. Does Keith David ever show up in your half of the movie? Man, fuck, that's sad. He's so good in this.
Oh,
scene.
yeah?
Because he's playing the dad, and he's doing this like overly verbose monologue. And at one point, he's saying this stuff, and then he like looks over to Monk, and he's like, no, I would never say that. Like, rewrite that stuff. We got to make this simpler. And then he makes like the writing simpler or whatever.
This reminds me of The Man Who Invented Christmas. Remember that movie?
It is like The Man Who Invented Christmas. It's
The
exactly
man who
like that.
invented a fake story about his life.
My Pathology.
My Pathology.
Yeah, that's the name of the book. And this part was really good. And then Monk says like, and here comes the really sappy monologue. And it's revealed that Keith David is this like gangster's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gangster's like, you know what? You're not my dad. You're a piece of shit. And, you know, you suck. And he goes on this big, overly verbose monologue. And it's like, at first, it's obviously really sappy and cheesy and goofy. But then there's a moment where, like, the gangster looks over at Monk, and they, like, look at each other. I guess I can refer to this guy as Stag, because I think that's who this protagonist is supposed to be. And he looks over at Monk, and Monk looks back at the guy, and there's, like, this big moment where it's like, I'm you, and you are me. And you ain't shit, so I ain't shit. And then he starts shooting the old man, basically. And the old man's like, what'd you do that for? He like looks over at Monk, and Monk's like, I don't know.
Fuck it, I don't give a shit.
I'm just like writing. I'm just
writing
stuff.
bullshit.
It's coming out of me. But it is I think him writing a bit about like him and his dad, like the relationship he had with his dad, where it's like he's starting to learn so much about how his dad was like a bad guy. Basically, it sounds like he had a good relationship with his dad up until now.
Yeah.
He had the best relationship with his parents between any of the other siblings, and now he's learning more about his dad. And he's like, yeah, you know what, my dad wasn't that good a guy,
Kinda
and maybe
suspect,
that means
actually.
I wasn't a good guy. You know,
Because he probably was like, I relate to my dad a lot.
And
Well,
honestly, in this moment, I was like, this is actually a pretty good bit.
I think he does. I think that's why he's so grumpy all the time.
Yeah.
Like none of his other family members are really that grumpy.
Honestly, yeah, like Cliff seems upset, but he's having a grand all the time. He's fucking like, he's like snorting cocaine.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking dudes.
Yeah, dude. He
Lisa's
seems like
dead. It's great, man.
she seems so lively until she wasn't.
He just like, fucking dies. Next morning, Duke's watching TV. This part's really funny where it's like Black Stories Month, and they're showing like black pain and suffering of like poverty and drugs and slavery, and like and like Precious. Like these are the only representations of like black people in film, and it's like, man, where's all like the positive representation of like black people in film? But no, this is the only thing that we have to see.
I think that's the thing is that like this is something that definitely happens still, but I feel like it's less so.
I'd like to think so, but
I like to think we've gotten a little bit better at this.
I say that, but like within our lifetime, we've seen fucking like Green Book win
Best
Picture.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like there's still instances of this. This is their make right. They're like, we gotta give this one back.
Like Antebellum came out pretty recently too.
That's true. There's definitely still ones that pop up.
That happens. That's true. Yeah. But so but I'd like to think it doesn't happen as much, but I don't know. But yeah, that was pretty funny. I don't know where I was going with this. I was gonna say something about on the same like subject to this, but whatever. I'll come back to it. Then his like editor calls him up. His editor friend.
I think his name is Arthur.
Arthur.
Yeah.
And is he married?
Yeah, he's. Why can't I ever think of her name? Nora Moon.
He's married to Nora Moon
from the last movie.
The last movie.
Yes, no.
Yeah, he's like, oh my freaking wife.
This is him in the way in the past, way in the future. He's much
future.
Older.
He's not a writer anymore. He's like, it's been another 12 years. He's like,
he's all gray and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so Arthur, the editor, which is kind of funny because he's an Arthur and he works with authors.
Author. Same as the last movie.
I think we might see a little bit of connection over here. We did that on purpose. He was reading the book, his agent, and he's just like, I know what you're doing, and I think it's silly, and I don't think you should put this out. I think people are gonna get upset. And he's like, no, put it out. Like, Duke's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just rubbing their noses in it. There's actually a really great line here where Arthur says like, this isn't subtle. And he's like, good, it's not supposed to be subtle. It's supposed to be over the top.
Exactly, Mike. That's why you're supposed to have that goofy ass music, and then it's like, my mom is dying.
All right, fine. I mean, I'm curious to see how this movie wraps it all up.
I'm very excited to tell you.
I'm
very excited.
All right. So then he's like, send it out. He's like, should I send it out as like performance art? And he's like, no, send it out under a pseudonym. Like, I want to see if this sells, basically. So then Duke meets up with Coraline. They go on a little date, and then they fuck.
Duke?
Why did I say Duke?
I don't know. Monk, you mean?
I said monk.
They're both 4-letter words. That's fair.
I don't know why I wrote Duke.
Where's that?
Duke is
Duke's
all over
out of
my
nowhere.
Notes.
Why would you write Duke?
I don't know. There's a bunch of Dukes and then there's monks.
Oh no, monks and Dukes. Hey, you know what? It's all fiction, baby.
It's all fiction. It's all American fiction. I genuinely don't know why I did
That's, you know what?
Monk.
I've had things like this happen.
This
it's
is embarrassing.
Sometimes you get stuck on a name and you just write it.
I don't know why. Monk goes on a date with Coraline. They fuck, and then he arrives home and the power is out because Lisa's the one that used to pay the bills.
He can't have one thing nice.
He can't one thing. And so he calls up Cliff and he's like, hey, help me. And Cliff's snorting coke and he says he's taken a lover. And
nice.
and Monk's like, he's like, ugh, come on. He's like, all right, homophobe. He's like, I'm not grossed out that you've taken a lover. I'm grossed out by the fact that you said that you've taken a lover. Like, what an insane way of saying
it. It is a kind of a weird thing
to
say.
You have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then Monk meets with his agent, and the agent's like, all right, your book's sold. And he's like, really? I thought they passed on that. And he's like, no, not that book. The black book sold. And he's like, no. He's like, I know, I didn't want it to sell. And he's like, well, it's sold. And he's like, well, we're not going to like go for it. We're not actually going to like put it out there. And the Arthur like does this really great thing where he's like, all right, look at all these like whiskey brands, right? You got like all these different like Johnny Walkers, and you have like cheap whiskey, and you have like medium whiskey, and you have the highest end whiskey. He's like,
yeah, I'll put it in terms finally I can understand.
Honestly, I was like, okay, thank you. Now I understand. And he's like, you've been writing the high end whiskey, but high end whiskey is expensive, and some people just want to get drunk. So now you've written cheap whiskey, and that doesn't mean you can't keep writing high end whiskey. That just means
you gotta have an affordable brand. You gotta have an affordable brand for the people.
And he says you're actually better than Johnny Walker because Johnny Walker has its name all over the bottles. You don't even have to put your name on this other book.
That's true.
You know,
you're literally like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a beer brand that like is sold under a lower name. You know, it's like Budweiser sells also Blue Moon or
Bud
something
Light.
like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, they have like Bud Light, right? And then they have like higher end brands.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
They got to spread it, but you don't know that.
But then you got the
together.
king of beers, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
Tastes like piss.
Tastes like piss. So yeah, so that's great. And he's like, all right, fine. Let's talk to like a publisher and see what they're offering us. So they have a call with the publisher. It's like this like white lady, and she's like, hey,
Does she have a dude assistant? It's like a dude.
no, I
guy?
think this is a different woman. What does she look
okay.
like? White hair?
This is a white lady. I don't know. Blonde
My
white lady.
God, you're so useless.
I don't know.
She's got like kind of lighter hair. She has blue eyes.
Probably.
All right, fine. So she's on the phone and she's like, "Hey, I'd like to speak with what's the name of the guy? The book Stag?
Monk. Stag. Yeah,
Stag.
that's it. Yeah.
He's like, "I'd like to speak to Stag," and he goes, "Speaking," and she goes, "Oh," and then the Arthur
the author maker.
the editor is
Yeah.
like, "You can't, like act it up, like act like your character." So that he starts to like perform as this other like character, and the writer, the publisher's like, "Oh, okay." Like now she like is willing to like accept this phone call, and she's like, "Yeah, so we're willing to pay you a lot of money for this, a lot of money, because we think this is going to be the next big hit. This is going to be the book of the summer." And then he says, "I'm sure white people in the Hamptons will delight in this." And she says, "Yes, we will." I mean, they will. And it's like, that's a really great bit. That's
Yeah.
a really, really good bit. I'm like, all right, this is good. I'm loving this. This is a really good bit. And then Monk goes and he meets with a security guard named Maynard, and Maynard really likes Lorraine. And then
Love Maynard and Renee.
Coraline comes over to visit. And I'm like, oh,
Lorraine. Yeah.
this isn't the book. Coraline comes over to visit his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't the book.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about the
Oh,
book.
you're so interested in the book, huh?
I
You're so
am.
interested in the book. You're not caring about like real people and the
I
real
guess
lives.
not.
You're very interested.
Yeah,
in
these
kinda
are real
like,
people in this real fictional movie.
You know, you cared about the media. You know, you care about the media he produces and how
Sure.
interesting that is, and this
Yeah.
little lie he's concocted. But
What
like
about
people in
Maynard
their
is
lives-
interesting? What about Maynard is interesting? Tell me about Maynard. Do you even know Maynard?
Maynard's just a nice guy. He's a cool dude. He's just a chill dude. Why can't we have books about chill dudes? You know, we
Fair.
literally just talked about a movie, Past Lives.
Sure.
It's just about people just hanging out. There's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
spectacular about any of
That's
them.
fair. That's fair.
Nothing crazy about them. But we
Yeah.
were like, that movie's great. Now we're talking about Maynard.
That is a fair point. I will say, and I don't know if you agree with me on this too, Past Lives looked way better than this movie
Yes,
did.
this movie,
The direction is fine.
it is the most serviceable ass direction I've seen. It's totally fine. It's competent.
Totally fine. It's honestly the closest thing to like Coda, I want to say.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
It's
Like,
the way it's shot.
When you
yeah.
said that, like it honestly really sets off bells in my brain. Where I'm just like, it does feel like that. Where it's just totally fine, safe,
perfectly
it's nothing
serviceable.
offensive.
Yeah.
But nothing amazing either. Nothing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like even Past Lives, while nothing really crazy impressive, was
Yeah.
very subtle in its impressive use of
Like film as well. They used
exactly
film in that.
just like
yeah.
the whole movie was subtle. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't know. Don't
That's fair.
compare this to Past Lives.
I'm comparing it to Past Lives.
All right,
You can't stop me,
I won't.
motherfucker.
I can't. I won't. All right.
This
so
is both fiction.
Mom's happy that Coraline is not a white woman. Monk's mom is now wandering around in the dark, and Monk goes to look for her in the dark and the beach. And the mom's like, "I'm looking for Lisa." And he's like, "Oh, go find Lisa. Go back to the house." And then the mom's like, "I don't want to move into an assisted care
Wait, who's
facility."
Lisa?
Lisa's the sister, the dead sister.
Oh, yeah,
She's
yeah.
looking for a dead
R.I.P..
sister. Exactly, R.I.P. And then we meet Carl. Carl works at the New England Book Association, and he's on the phone with Monk in your half of the movie.
Okay.
And he's the white guy on the phone with Monk.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And
I'm caught
Monk's
up.
like, yes, and Monk's and he's like, this. Honestly, this is probably one of the funniest parts of the whole movie. This guy fucking Carl stole the fucking show. So he's like at his desk, and he has like notes in front of him. And I think this was like a note. I think this is something the actor did. I don't know if this was like a directorial choice. He's like looking down at the paper, and he's like, "So it's been brought to our attention that we don't have enough black people on our in association. So we were just wondering if you wanted to be part of that." And it's like clear he's reading like notes to like. A little thing like off the like he's not actually speaking to him as like a human being. He's just like, yeah, like we're just looking for like black people to like help like judge these books. I don't know. It's just like
We're just trying to fill up a role.
it's
You
just
know.
a good like character decision. Like he's not even like talking to him. He's just reading off this thing.
Yeah.
And then Monk's like, oh well, yeah, he says something like, oh well, it's great to be the first person called so that you don't have to be accused of racism. And he's like, okay, great. So you want to take the job?
Sure,
like he doesn't fucking
he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Any accusation, he's like, whatever.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're right. And so then Monk's like, well, I don't really want to do that. And he's like, well, we can kind of maybe pay you money. And he's like, no, I don't really care, which is kind of crazy because he needs that money.
Yeah.
So then I believe that's your half the movie.
That's when he's like, well, what you can do is you can actually like, instead of figuratively judging writers, you can literally judge writers. And he's like, oh, hell yeah, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got him to do it, which is interesting.
He's a judgy guy.
He's a very judgy guy. It fits his character.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then he also has to work with Satara, which he was like, I'm vaguely familiar with her, but he deep down is like, she's a hack. You know, she's just writing books to cater to white people.
Yeah, exactly. And pandering to white
so
people.
then let's see. Lorraine is like, let's go on a date. They go off for a date.
Lorraine?
Lorraine. Oh, sorry. Lorraine. Sorry. Oh my God. Lorraine.
Oh, I forgot to say one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So there's that whole scene. There's this cute scene where the mom's like talking to Coraline and going like, "Hey, you're really cool. I'm glad my son is not dating a white woman." Then there's this moment between Coraline and Monk. They're alone, and Monk's like, "Hey, I think you remind my mom of our sister." And she goes, "Why do you say that?" And he's saying, like, "Do you think we look alike?" And he's like, "No, you sort of just like have the same energy. You're both like go-getters, and you're both really good kissers."
What?
And he means this as a joke.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, maybe no.
That joke was a little weird. He's an awkward guy. He's a weirdo.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Lorraine comes to him later and is like, hey, can I have the afternoon off? I want to go on a date with Maynard. He's like, you really like this guy, don't you? And she's like,
big
yeah,
old
I do.
Maynard.
He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'll hang out with my mom. It's okay. This evening I'm free. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, and then he gets a phone call from Arthur. And Arthur's like, come in the office. So he brings in his mom to the office with Arthur.
Because he has to look after her.
He has to look after her. And he's like, are you sure this is okay? And he's like, yeah, there's a film director who wants to make a movie out of your out of your your book that you wrote.
Right.
So you got to go meet with him. And he's like, what the fuck? Okay, well, I mean, I'll do that. You're going to look after my mom. He's like, yeah, your mom will be fine. And
I like this guy.
Arthur?
Yeah.
He's fun. He's
love
nice,
Arthur.
He's a fun guy.
He's a great character.
So he's like, okay, fine. So I'll go meet with this guy. And he's like, what if he recognizes me? He's like, no fucking will recognize you. Come on, dude. No one's going to recognize you. You're not popular enough. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. Don't worry. And like, kind of like, I told you to dress street, dude. And he's like, I did. He just came in like a t-shirt and like jeans. He's like, I did. I came street. He's like, well, you just gotta like act your part. He's like, all right, well, make sure to be on time. He's like, well, if you want a stereotype, I better be late.
Jesus.
So he arrives at the restaurant. He
Yeah.
takes off his glasses. He comes in there. He kind of acts very aloof, like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
So,
he's acting hard.
He meets the director, and the director's like, oh, sorry, this place is so bougie, like. I didn't mean, if you're uncomfortable here, we could go somewhere else. And he's like, no, it's okay. And he's like, can I take your order? He's like, can I get a white wine? He's like, oh, you like white wine? He's like, yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, I just didn't know, I think a person of your background would like white wine. He's like, yeah, I think it's good. He's like, so what? So I read your book. What are you in? What were you in for? He's like, oh. He's like, was it murder? He's like, you said that, not me. And then so the director's like, all right, I'm going to pitch it to you. I like to pair genre with real world pathos. So right now I'm making a movie about a white couple who gets married in Louisiana, and all the slaves come back as ghosts and kill everyone.
God.
It's called Plantation Annihilation.
Oh my God. Feels like a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah, it really does. He's like, that's cool. That's cool. And he's kind of like distracted, and he's looking outside. And he sees a fucking ambulance go by, and he freaks out. And he's like,
Mom.
He's like, oh fuck! And he runs out the meeting, and he's like, Mom. He comes back running to Arthur, and his mom's just sitting there hanging out with Arthur.
Wow, really
He's
didn't
like,
think Arthur could take care of her.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Come on, trust in Arthur.
Come on, and Arthur we trust.
So he left early, and he's like, oh no, some fucking ad executive just died, like had a brain aneurysm. Can you imagine like thinking of a new piece of like commercial and your brain shits out? Like that fucking sucks.
Jesus.
Anyway, and he says, so I assume because I left early, we're not gonna get this filmed. He's like, oh no.
He loves
you. He loves you. He said, it was great that you took off the moment you heard police sirens.
I thought that the same thing. Yeah, that's
He's
pretty
like,
funny.
oh, fuck.
That's pretty funny.
So he then goes on a call with the judges of this award.
Yeah.
Judges? Yeah, judges.
Judges.
Judges is such a like a
Jurors.
negative connotation.
Yes,
Jurors.
judges.
The judges. He gets on a call with all these other judges, and they talk about how, like, man, there's a lot of fucking books to read, huh?
Yeah.
There's so many books to read. Well, I don't want to fucking read them all. Why don't we just pick ones? And they're like,
Damn.
no, we have to like read them a little
Try,
bit.
yeah.
And so Issa Rae's character is like, why don't we just read the first like 100 pages or so of each
read
book?
the first half.
Yeah.
No, I'll read the second
No,
half.
100 pages is barely the first
Yeah,
half.
you're right.
And then we can kind of judge it from there. And everyone's like, all right, that's fine. That'll work. Which is
Yeah.
just like, interesting, considering that
Yeah.
this is nominated for an Oscar.
That used to be her job.
Oh, really?
She said like her original job was like reading manuscripts and judging them and then
Oh.
sending them up the ladder.
Yes. No, I know someone. We know someone who also had that similar job.
Really?
I'm not going to tell you off stream. Off the podcast.
Okay.
We're not streaming right now. But, I'll tell you off that.
Oh.
The stream of consciousness. I'll tell you
Was
later.
it that guy Monk that we know?
No. Similar characteristics.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
I know. I made it too easy.
I know who you're talking
Oh, no. This is podcast, too. They'll know. It's fucking over. I'm
You're
fucked.
fucked.
He's going to kill me. Oh, my God. He's going to assassinate. He knows where I live.
He knows
He's
where you
gonna
live.
come
He
cut
wrote
my
that book that one
Oh
time.
my God, he's gonna cut my throat in my sleep.
no.
Oh
You're
God,
screwed.
dang it! No, we're gonna have to edit this all out, but I won't because it's content, baby.
It's content,
I
baby.
love those. I love that fucking engagement. I can't stop. You don't
Well,
get
you
your
better
engagement?
do it on stream or
Oh
something.
God, well,
You better
maybe.
stream it or else.
Here's where our fucking Twitch channel is. Come on, he's gonna
Exactly.
get me. Oh, dude, it's fucking over. I'm sweating bullets over here, baby. So he brings his mom over to. I wrote his mom is here, which is very vague. But she's very
I love
picky
you
about
and your
everything.
notes, man.
It's like, why did I write? Okay, so I
mom
think
is
I think
here.
his mom is moving into an assisted care facility,
Yes.
and she's very picky about everything. Lorraine is talking about all the things that
She doesn't
want to
be there.
And then Lorraine, like, while walking back, is like, hey, while they're driving back, her and Carolyn and
Caroline.
Caroline, excuse me.
Or Coraline. Sorry, Coraline.
Coraline, like the book or
Like
the movie?
book. Like the movie and the book.
She's like, Maynard asked me to marry me, so it's happening.
oh my God. Moving quick.
Moving quick. She's like, wow. I was like, yeah, I know. It's been really fast, but like, Monk, can you like walk me down the aisle? Like, is that cool? And he's like, yeah,
Holy
of course
crap.
I will. It's an honor. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's talking to Arthur later on. He says, hey, we got this call with the publisher. And so they're talking to the publisher. It's her and an assistant. I heard some other guy. I don't know. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen another white guy?
Yeah,
White
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Do you see him?
No.
Okay.
I've never seen
Anyway, they're like, oh yeah, so we're excited to we really think this book's gonna be big. We really are very excited for it. We got, those talks about the movie. And they're talking about the movie that like Michael B. Jordan might sign to play a lead role.
That's awesome.
And if he does, like, we want to put him in one of those
yeah.
head scarves, like a do-rag.
I
Like,
saw
oh
that
yeah,
in the
yeah,
trailer.
yeah. It's in the trailer.
I'm sad about how many of these funny jokes are in the trailer.
It's true, but they are funny jokes.
They are
so
funny
you gotta put
jokes.
them in there.
Yeah.
So then but this is a great part because fucking Arthur like mimes like, oh my God, fucking shoot me. He mimes shoot himself and he's like, oh shit, sorry, you're dad. And that part got me so good. Part's so fucking funny.
I love that shit. Okay, that's very funny. That's very funny.
Then like we want to rush it for Juneteenth. We think it'd be
Oh.
good. That's when people want to like, white people feel bad and black people are celebrating.
Really cater to that.
Like it'll be
yeah.
great. And he's like, all right, well, I want to change the title. Oh, you want to change the title?
What's it
yeah,
gonna be?
I want to change the title
American
from
fiction.
pathology. You think it's American fiction?
That's my guess.
He says, it's like, okay, well, we really like the title, My Pathology, but we're open to ideas. He's like, I want to call it Fuck.
All right, that's good. I like it.
And they're like, oh, well, that's gonna be kind of hard to tell. He's like, if you don't change the title, the deal's off. And that Arthur's like, pause it, like mutes him. He's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? He's like, fuck these guys. I don't give a shit about them.
That's awesome.
We're shutting this down. He's like,
Yeah.
no, like, you can't do this. He's like, you're gonna give us so much money. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right. And they say, hey, are you still there? Are you still there? I think it's a great idea. I think
Oh,
we're gonna
man.
go with it. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, do you think it's very good? We think it's very in your face in the best way possible. We think it's and he's like, very black.
Oh.
He's like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. So anyway, Monk comes home with Coraline.
Yeah.
And Cliff is swimming in the pool. I don't know who this fucking guy is.
Oh yeah,
he's just swimming in the pool.
Yeah.
And Monk's like, what the fuck? Get out of the pool. He's like, why? It's like, why are you in town? He's like, I don't know. I'm just here. And he's like, why do you have a black eye? He's like, well, I got in a fight. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I have no idea who this guy
You don't
is.
know who this dude is.
I'm like, is he trying to run away from someone who has a similar, like maybe a
like
harder
he
life
stole
or something?
his story or something, maybe even.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of thinking. Not at all.
No.
Not
It's
at
just
all.
his brother.
And he's like, oh, is this your Coraline? Is that her? Wow, at least she's not white. And he's like, dude, your wife was white. He's like, my wife was a beard. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
And then
you're getting a lot of good information here.
I am getting a lot of info.
Yeah.
And he fucking pulls Monk into the water and he's like, I pissed down there. I love Cliff. Like I'm doing an absolute disservice to how much charisma Cliff has. It's so funny.
Cliff is good. I like Cliff. So I really don't hate any characters in this movie, to be honest.
That's the thing is like,
except for like the awful white people, but other than that, yeah.
But like every character's like I kind of like just hanging out with them. They're all very nice. They're all very chill. Well, this is the part where I was like, this is just a cool hangout movie. At this point. You know, I didn't have any other drama you had. I didn't have people being shady to her. I didn't have like sisters dying or anything
out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So Cliff is like, hey, I got fucking punched in the face because like I got kicked out because I was with a dude and I brought another dude home and it was just too many. He didn't like it. He's like, I've only been gay for like 5 minutes. I got to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
And Cliff asked like Coraline, like, what do you see in my brother? Like, honestly though, like, what do you see in him? And she's like, oh, well, he's funny. And he's like, really? Like, well, not like ha ha funny, but like sad funny. And like Monk just sits there, he's like, oh man, like fucking what the fuck? He's doing such a great job of like what you get when you hear information you're like not quite happy with, but it's really funny at the same time.
But honest.
Yeah.
As
and
well.
he's just like, all right, well. So he brings, Cliff came back also because like, I guess Monk has been asking like, come home,
help us out,
etc. So he does that. So he goes and visits mom. And he's like, damn, how can you afford this nursing home? Like, this is really expensive. He's like, after mom's divorce, we had some money left over. And he's like, really? I thought she was cleaned out. And he's like, well, you want to take the bills on, then you could read the finances sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. He was off like asking for help from Cliff.
So then, unfortunately, they had a rough morning. So like the nurse was like, they had to sedate the mom because she apparently started to hit a nurse.
Damn.
And then Caroline asked, like, how can you afford this place as well? And he's just like, oh. And she's like, you're not a drug dealer, are you? He's like, haha, no, I'm a writer. Yeah, I just write about him. And so like the mom dances with Cliff and says, like after the dance, like just a nice sweet moment, just like reconnecting, and she just says, I always knew you weren't a queer. And he's just like,
damn.
Fuck this. And he just fucking leaves. He's like, fuck that. I don't want to be around this. This is toxic.
Yeah.
And he leaves. He's, Monk's like, why are you leaving already? He's like, fucking, I don't want to be around that. Like, that's toxic as hell,
sucks, Yeah.
And Caroline's like, it's nice to meet you, Cliff. Like, see ya. As he's walking out with an umbrella, and he looks back at her and says, this family will break your heart. And then he gets in the car and leaves.
Shit, dog.
I know. Then there's a fucking show where like the new debut novel Fuck is like #1 of the new year. And they call it Fuck, and then you have an interview with him, and it's like completely blacked out his face because he's still wanted by like the FBI, you know?
Right.
And he's Monk is watching this, and he's like, man, this fucking sucks. And like Arthur calls him and is like, hey man, just let you know the FBI does actually want you. Like they want to know the identity of you.
Whoa.
He's like,
because they think it's real?
Yeah, and he's like, they don't fucking think it's real, do they? And they're like, well, I mean they do, but like you didn't do any fucking anything, so you're fine. It's okay. Yeah. And he's like, I fucking wish I went back to not selling books. I kind of regret all of this.
Yeah.
So then he's having dinner with Coraline, and he starts getting on one. Like he starts feeling like kind of upset.
Mm-hmm. Getting on one.
So he spills something on his shirt, and he's like, fucking, I'll go clean this up. So he goes back, and he sees the book Fuck in her backpack.
Oh, no.
And he gets, he's like, have you read this? She's like, yeah, I read it. It's like, what do you think? I like it. Yeah, I was given it. Someone gave it to me. He's like, it didn't offend you? And she's like, no, I mean, like, he's like, what's your problem? He says, my problem is books like these aren't real. Mm-hmm. My life is a disaster, but not in a way like this. And And like, but apparently white people and people like you eat it up like slop to pigs.
Damn.
I'm like, man, this guy fucking sucks. I was like totally like, Monk's all right. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, he's being kind of a huge dickhead.
To her for no
And
reason.
she's like, why are you acting like this? You've been acting like a weirdo for weeks. And he's like, you don't understand what it's like to be a writer. You can't just, you just don't understand my life. And she's like, all right, well, like not being able to relate to people is not a badge of honor like you hold it is. And she takes off. And I think he decides that's like time for, I think Lorraine actually decides to move out because she's like, well, mom said assisted living care. I need to get out of here. So she's asking for a couple things while she's moving out. And he gets a package for the book review, and it's the book Fuck.
Oh,
he gets
no.
So he has to review his own book.
Oh, shit. He has to judge it.
He has to judge his own book. And so all the judges get on the line. They're like, hey, so like, should we review this book? And it's like, well, technically we have to. Like, technically it was written before the deadline, so we got to review. He's like, oh, I don't know. It came in late. I don't think we should review it.
Yeah.
So then there's the wedding, Lorraine's wedding. So he brings over her mom, and they have a bunch of friends over. It's like this really cool like beach house that they have the wedding at. But turns out Cliff is there. Cliff is hanging out there with some of his boys. Some of his boys. Some of his fuck boys are there. And he's like, he's doing cocaine. He's like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
Damn it, the
Clean it
wedding.
up. Well, he didn't know there was a wedding. He forgot. He wasn't gonna go.
I see.
He was gonna. They said like, you should stay. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm leaving. So he's like, oh shit. Well, fucking, I'll leave. I'll get out of here. Like Monk's like, get out of here. But like, Lorraine and her husband Maynard's like, fucking stay, dude. It's chill.
It's all
like,
good.
It's cool. And like, don't worry about it, Cliff. Like, you're welcome here. You can hang out. It's fine. We can hang out. And Monk's like, oh, well, you know what? Because you really want me to be here, I'll actually be here. Like, not Monk saying this. Like, you said this. The people who are having the wedding. And he walks away, and then Monk says to him, like, wow, how could you, like, deal with that? Like, this guy's, like, trashed the place. The place you're supposed to stay at and have your wedding.
Right.
He's like, it's easier to deal with family when it's not your family. He's like, well, it's about to be your family soon.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what is Lorraine's relationship? And now I know that she's just, like, a really home, like a worker that works for them.
Yeah,
like,
basically.
I guess they're just part of the family, I suppose.
That's what he says. I mean, I think she's been with the family forever.
It must have been forever,
So,
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's funny because like even Cliff's like boys are like, hey, you want me to like make a smoothie or something? Like, yeah. Maynard's like, that's fucking awesome. Make a smoothie for me. It's great.
All right, Maynard's cool.
Maynard's
a
cool.
cool guy.
Yeah, and they're like and his boyfriends are being so nice. They're just like, oh, whatever, we'll hang out. It's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Then.
So anyway, they get married on the beach. Everyone's dancing, but like it's nighttime. The reception's going on. They're hanging out by the house, just dancing. It's a very small, cute wedding. But Monk's just kind of like by himself. Like everyone's dancing, he's not.
He's sad.
He's sad. And then, well, I mean, fucking Coraline's like left him basically.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for his reason.
For a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
Cliff finds Monk and says, like, did you piss her off? He's like, yeah. You shut her out? Yeah. He's like, I'm finding myself getting angry these days, just like Dad. Cliff's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean just these days? Like, you've always kind of been that way. And Cliff admits, like, I wish Dad knew I was gay. And Monk's like, what if he like rejected you? And he's like, at least he'd be rejecting the real me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like
the book
Just like
you're
the
writing.
book.
Yeah.
And he's like, people want to love you, Monk. I don't know why. But people want to love you. And you should just let them. Like, stop being so weird.
All of you.
And then he gives his brother a big kiss on the forehead. And let me be honest, who doesn't want to kiss a little bald Jeffrey Wright on the forehead? Come on, look at his little forehead. It's so kissable.
And I'm thinking of our mutual friend who, imagine kissing him on his forehead.
Oh, my goodness.
Just rubbing it
Just
up.
rub it on there.
Yeah,
Little
exactly.
smooch on there.
Just like squeak, squeak, squeak. You can see
squeak.
yourself in his,
Yeah,
in his
so
forehead and
good.
you kiss
Yeah.
them all up. I
So
get
good.
it, man.
Just a little forehead.
Yeah, just the
I don't
forehead.
care anything else. Just the forehead.
Just the forehead. Maybe a little more.
No. We'll see how I'm feeling that night. Anyway, now they decide. Let's see. Okay, so now the judges are deciding. They're actually all meeting together. Before it was all on Zoom. Now they're deciding like which book is in front, like which one is the winner, and
it's Fuck.
everyone likes Fuck except Issa's Raycare. Issa Rae's character does not like it.
Oh.
She's like, I thought it was pandering. And like this.
Whoa. And this is the person that he said was writing a pandering book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like very interested in this. He's like, oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I read it. I also agree. I think it's very pandering.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was like just so real. It just felt so good. All these other two white people. They're the only
I was going to ask, these are the only two black people.
Only two black people.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone, the other 3 judges are white guys.
Yeah,
or
right.
1 lady and 2 white guys.
Got it.
And she's like, okay, well, let's go take a break before we decide this. You know, they're almost done with figuring out their top 10 list.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all take a break, and he's still there with Issa, and is just like, hey, so like, I want to talk to you about the book Fuck. Like, what did you find about it? Like, what didn't you like about it? And she's like, it just felt soulless. Like, it just felt pandering and soulless. Like, even if it was pandering, like, it didn't feel like it had any heart behind it.
Right.
And he's like, well, no disrespect at all. Like, I don't mean to offend you, but like, how is that different from
your book? Yeah.
And she's like, it's a lot different because like I studied and interviewed like tons of people. I didn't live through those specifically, but I talked to so many people and got the research and wrote it down.
Right.
And he's like, oh, so you're okay with like giving people what they want and you know, all of that.
Yeah.
He's like, are you tired, like not fed up with like stories about black people living in poverty? You're not tired of it. And you're not like thinking that like you're just feeding white people's assumption about all this. Like this is what people are going to be. And he's like, we're more than this, you know, we're more than this, you know? And she's like, do you think like people read a Charles Bukowski book and think like, oh man, this is all white people do, you know, this is the sort of thing. And it's like, no, but white people read our books and think that, you know? Yeah. And it confines us to this. And she's like, sounds like your issue is with white people, not me. Like, I'm just doing what I got to do.
Yeah.
And, he's just like potential, but you have so much potential to write something else, something more interesting than just like catering to these people. Yeah. And she's like, potential is what people see when people see something in front of them that they think is not good enough. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really powerful statement. Just like,
I mean, that is what I saw when I saw the first half of this movie.
True. Fair enough.
See a lot of potential here.
Then someone else and the white lady shows up and is like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
And he goes outside and he texts Coraline and is just like, hey, can you be my date to the award show? Like, I have some things I want to tell you. And she starts writing him back. You see the little 3 dots.
Oh no, she loves him on red.
And I gotta say, he's an Android user. And I like that they show the new Android users. You can see people writing back if you got that new Android. So I'm thinking they're both 2 Android users. It was very interesting. Oh. He definitely feels like an Android user. Like,
I wonder what production company made this movie, because if it's like, you know, like a Sony company or, you know. It
doesn't seem like a Sony. It just seemed like your standard stock Android.
I gotta look this up.
I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my fun tech tangent. I know Mike, you love those.
Fucking movie we talk about. This is old Skype.
I gotta say, it's just nice to see an Android not showing like a weird fucking goofy ass phone. It's this is just a standard messaging app.
Normal phone.
And not always, you know, it's always the Apple iPhone.
It's a very fair point.
Or, you know, I'm just saying speaking of representation. Finally.
Apparently it's distributed through Amazon, so.
Interesting. Well, they have Fire phones.
They do have Fire phones, so that would make a lot of sense.
Well, they used to. I don't know if they do anymore. Anyway. So, in the end, all the judges are like, I think Fuck should be the winner. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, me and Issa don't agree with that. Like, we don't.
I like how you keep calling her Issa.
I don't remember her character's name. She's barely in the. I mean, she's in the movie, but she's barely in the movie.
I feel like she's in your half of the movie more than she's in my half of the movie.
Probably, but they don't say her name that often. Anyway, she's like
Centaura.
Yeah. So, I don't remember Centaur. It's like a centaur. That's like
I was thinking Santana.
Oh, that's a good way to remember it. Okay, so she's like.
So Issa.
Issa. They're like, well, I mean, I think it's pandering. I think it's bad. We should pick a different book. And one guy says, well, it's 3 against 2. I think we're going to win.
Fuck.
And then the lady's just like, oh, well, you know, I think it's essential to have this up front because we should be listening to black voices right now.
And it's like, you're not listening to them right now, guys.
Exactly. It's just so good. Just the timing on it.
This is literally what is it? The 2-3 compromise.
Oh, wow. 3/5 compromise.
3/5 compromise.
Yeah, oh, my God. It literally is. No, it does. It works, right?
I guess it does.
Because there's 5 people.
Yeah.
3/5
compromise.
Like, all right. Interesting. Anyway.
That has to be purposeful.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mom or Monk asked mom, like, did you know dad was cheating on you?
What'd she say?
She's like, yeah. I did.
Damn.
She's like, why the fuck did you stay with him?
Yeah.
And she says, well, he'd be lonely without me. You know, geniuses are lonely because they can't connect with the rest of us. Your dad was like a super smart guy, and you are too.
Right.
You know, you can't connect with people as easily as everyone else. So now they cut to, you know, it's a very emotional moment. Now they cut to the award show, and they're like, all right, well, we all know who the winner is going to be. So they're like, thank you all the judges. You know, we had a very diverse group of people pick these.
Mm-hmm.
Very, wink, wink. We had a very
we
diverse
had three
group.
white people.
We had 3 white people basically choose the end.
Yeah.
And so like, all right, well, the winner is Stag R. Lee with the book Fuck. I'm not sure if he's going to grace it with the presents tonight. He seems pretty cagey.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright's in the audience, and obviously he doesn't have his
Coraline's not there
with him.
Yeah.
So he gets up. He starts coming to the front of
the stage,
the podium.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's like, give me this. He takes the award, and he says, I have a confession to make. And he sees Coraline walk up, and then smashes the black.
Wait, is that really the end of the movie?
And then
The FBI show up.
no.
Oh.
Then it cuts to the director we saw earlier saying, that's the end of the movie? Smash the black?
Okay.
That's it? There's no resolution to it. What's he going to say?
Yeah.
He's like, that's what's interesting, though. Like, what, you know, like, what, make him think about it,
What
you
do
know?
you say? Yeah.
This is what, you know, Monk says. He's saying this to the director. And he's like, well, wait. Well, you did this for real, right? So, like, what did you do? He's like, oh, I just didn't say anything. I just walked off the stage. I got scared. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's not very interesting. He's like, all right, well, this is like, do you have any other endings you can like figure it out? Like, is there anything else besides that? He's like, okay. So they reimagine it. And instead he gets the award for Fuck happens. He gets up and you see him leave. He goes to Coraline's house and he walks up there. He knocks on the door. She opens the door. And he says, look, I'm sorry. I haven't been myself lately. And then
that's a very funny way of saying it.
And then the camera flies back, and that's the end of the movie.
Uh-huh.
And the director's like, what the fuck? That's it? Like, will she forgive him?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. The real Coraline won't return my phone calls.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know what this is actually going to be. And he's like, no, that's too fucking romantic comedy. We don't want to be a romantic comedy. He's like, all right. Do you have anything else? He's like, all right, here's my ending.
Okay.
So he gets up there. He takes the award. He says, I have a confession to make. And then suddenly, cops appear out of nowhere. Yeah. And they say, oh, it's the fucking fugitive guy. Fucking get him. And he's like, he's got a gun.
Because of the award?
The award. And just fucking, so just slow motion shot just unloading on
my God.
Poor Jeffrey Wright just getting fucking loaded up with bullets. It's super dramatic. And the director's like, I love it. That's it. That's our ending. And he just goes, fuck. So he leaves. Yeah. He leaves the little sound stage where he's currently directing Plantation. Oh, fuck. What was the name of it?
Plantation Annihilation or something?
Plantation Annihilation. Yeah. He leaves. He gets in the car with his brother Cliff. And Cliff's like, are you going to make another movie? Or are you going to make a movie? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, you better get someone handsome. They're like, oh, Tyler Perry's going to play you. He's like, fuck you. He's not going to play me. And right before he drives off, he looks at a dude in a black dude in a kind of like slave attire. And the dude just throws up the peace sign. And, you know, Monk just acknowledges him.
Yeah. And they nods at him.
Drive off and he leaves. And that's the real end of the movie.
Oh, man.
It's a very interesting ending.
It's an interesting ending.
Very interesting ending.
Yeah. So, yeah, what'd you think?
I keep thinking about it, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know. Like, it's not a very. It doesn't have a real resolution. I think that is what's interesting about it. It's true. Like, I don't know how it actually ended.
Yeah.
But these all could have been passed. That could have been taken, right? Because it's fiction.
Right.
You can do whatever you want with the ending.
That's true.
And what's the most satisfying? I don't know.
It's whatever you want.
Whichever one you want. And I feel like what he does realize at the end is that, you know, he sees that other person and he's up on his high horse. And he's just like, this other person also gets to make what they want to, their dreams happen. They want to be an actor probably, right?
Right.
Sure, they got to do
So why stand in their way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they got to dress up as a slave. They got to do the old, stereotype.
Yeah.
So is he. He's doing the same thing. And you know
Yeah.
what? Fucking whatever. You got to work in the system. It's kind of what I think the movie's trying to say.
That's really sad though. That's bleak.
Yeah. I think it is a little bleak. I think it
very
is just
bleak.
like,
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do, I guess, to get to the top.
I guess, man. I don't know though, because it's also the other thing that's weird about this is like the ending. Like, so much of this movie is about like Monk and his family and like the people around him, and it's like it seems like ultimately in the end, it's not even really about any of that. Like, that's not how the movie ends. Really, is like with him and his family. Like
Yeah, his family's more of just a driving force, I guess, to him to do this.
Yeah,
You
I don't
know?
know. I guess that was just so much of my half of the movie. It's surprising that the movie like seems to reevaluate and just go like, you know what? That's not even really that important.
It's not that important
in
yeah.
the end, anyway.
But he's friends with, he's friends with the brothers.
That
so
is
I
good to
guess
know.
that's
Yeah, his
cool.
brother's there in his life,
And
so
also
that is
shows
good.
that Coraline doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. She's off with her husband again.
I guess maybe.
Yeah,
Who knows?
Back with her husband.
Who knows?
Yeah, I guess that was never a thing that really panned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like it's sort of lacking. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I want to like
You
it.
can not like a movie, Mike.
I
It's fine. You
know.
can be like, it's fine.
Yeah,
Which is
It's
kind of
just
how I ended
fine.
up. I think I enjoyed the jokes. While I was watching, I was having a great time.
Yeah. You laughed
And
a lot.
I think when I think about it too much, it kind of is just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't love it, but I liked it.
I will say, so I was reading up a bit about the book this is based on,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, you know what? This book sounds really good. I think I want to read the book.
Uh-huh.
I think I'd rather read the book than watch the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think the book might be dated? Because I think I remember reading that the actual book ends is like how
How the movie ends?
the first version of the movie ends,
Mm.
where it just cuts to black.
Honestly, I think I like that ending better anyway.
It is a good ending.
Yeah, it's
It is
it's a
good
perfect ending.
That's
Yeah,
probably
just
the
sort of
best
leave
one.
you with
But
something.
that's not what people want, though, baby.
They want what? They want what? What do they want?
They want the fucking, dude
Yeah.
get shot at the end. It's sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of just feel this is going to be the same. Like, I'm curious to see what this director, because he adapted the book.
Isn't this like his first movie? Am I
This is
wrong?
his first big movie.
This is
I
his first
think.
big movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's made like smaller films before this, but this is like the first like big film. So I'm kind of curious to see what he does next. But like, I don't know, man. I'm just sort of like, I feel like the tone is really weird. I feel like the direction is not like
It's very easy
super-
watching.
It
It's
is
very
easy
like
to watch.
easy
yeah.
watching. It's funny.
Yeah.
It feels like the Don't Look Up of this year.
That's too mean.
Well, if it was better written and had something.
I feel like
interesting to
Coda's
say.
more in line. Is there similar to Coda? It's like I don't have anything bad to say about Coda. I just don't have anything like amazing to say about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Don't
Like-
Look Up is actively like boring, and it's also like super long.
Yeah,
It has the
that's
same joke. Like, there's obviously different jokes. They start doing different things with this.
Right.
The whole joke isn't just what it could have been, which is like, haha, isn't it funny that like
Yeah.
people love this media so much? It's like, no, there's
Yeah.
other jokes between him and his family. It's genuinely funny in different ways,
right.
Um,
Charming and yeah.
which I don't think Don't Look Up has.
No, not at all. No.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think I kind of agree though. Like, it is feel like Coda.
yeah,
But I think I'm a little less hot on this than I think I was with Coda. I like Coda a fair amount,
yeah.
but I think the saccharine elements of this kind of get in the way a little bit.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with you. And it feels like a totally different movie.
It does feel like two movies kind of jammed together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Whenever he's with his his Arthur
Yeah.
friend, it feels like one movie, and then he goes off and he's like at the beach house with his family, and it feels like a totally different film. And it's like, I'd rather just like, I want to hear more about this stuff, you know?
You
But
kind of think about it a little much, and you're like, isn't that the kind of what they're trying to like get at? Is that
I
like,
think they are. I think they are trying to go like, okay, well, this is the book he's reading, and here's where he came from, right? I think that
and
is
like
sort of,
and like what's more interesting is the book, but like people don't care as much about like just family living.
I will say it's not even the subject of the book that's interesting though. What's interesting is like the premise of like this guy doesn't like this specific kind of media, and so he writes a fake version of it, and then people respond to it. That's interesting. I'm not saying like the book he's writing is interesting. I'm saying like the sort of like social jam
No, I
that's
get it.
occurring
I
is
get it.
interesting.
I
you
get
know?
that, but
that's
that's-
way more interesting, I think.
Yeah, way more interesting than his family life, which is what kind of the books he was kind of talking about earlier.
And I guess that the other thing is like I was also sort of like I thought one of the more interesting aspects of the movie is like he's writing this like trash in the book, something he even says is like garbage, but he's relating it back to his own like feelings about his father. And so I was like, oh, that's going to be like a thread. The thread is going to be him going like using this book as sort of like a way of like getting his feelings out that he otherwise wouldn't be able to. But it doesn't feel like that's even really what is going on either,
No, I think it is one. I think he probably got all of that out, right? Like
Then
in your half.
Yeah, I just thought
Like,
that would be a bigger.
He can't keep writing
thread.
the book. He's already done. Like, it's
No, I
already out
know,
there.
but like we could learn a bit more about like moments of the book and just go like, and then we can like parse
you just
through.
want to see Keith David back. I get it.
I do want to
That's
see
fair. You
Keith
don't see
David.
Keith
He's
David.
great.
We love Keith David.
We love Keith David. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fine. I mean, but you know what? We've yet to talk about every single Oscar movie, so I guess
That's
we'll compare
very
it to the
true.
other ones.
We're comparing it to our heads already.
Yeah,
In our
yeah,
heads,
yeah.
We're already comparing it.
We are comparing it.
But I don't think it's a bad movie. I would watch it again. It's fun.
I'd watch it again.
Yeah, I think it's very easy
I'd
to
watch
watch
it all the way through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's.
Well,
I think it's
say
great.
It's easy to watch, but there's some really fucking sad moments in this movie you have to go through as well,
I guess
though.
that's true. My half, it's like less sad, but they're so breezy. I don't know.
Yeah, not my half.
I guess that's true.
My half, you fucking.
I'm
It's
like
fucking sad.
Haha, she's got Alzheimer's.
His sister died.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
There's a lot of like sad shit you have to wade through, and then it's like, and then I was like, oh, there's a funny book now.
So does it count as the humor's dark humor then? Probably.
It's not even
right?
funny though. Like dark
Black humor?
humor's.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Well, guys, what do you think about this movie? Email us, email@theotherhalfpodcast.com. Let us know. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to listen to any of our previous Oscar episodes from this year or past years, you can find them on any podcatching app. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We will read in the show, no matter what it says, even if it is a false account of your life.
Please do. Please elaborate. Please make it American fiction.
Make it American fiction in
Or wherever you're from.
wherever.
Canadian fiction. Scandinavian fiction.
Yeah, Switzerland fiction.
Yeah, whatever.
We know a lot of our listeners are British housewives, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Please
British
make
fiction.
some British fiction. Let's go.
exactly.
There's not enough of that.
Tea and crumpets. We're into it.
Yum yum.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all the
That's
Oscar
it.
movies
We're
we're going
done.
to discuss on the podcast.
Yeah, because the other ones we've either seen or have seen.
Yes.
It's too much. So I know you're probably like, oh man, Oscar
What'd
buzz,
they think?
it's gonna bleed out. It's like, don't worry, we'll have an episode later talking about all of
Next
them.
week we're going to talk about all the Oscar movies. We're going to
It's a
compare
little
them all.
bonus, little bony episode.
A little boner episode.
Boner episode, which is
Yeah.
the name of Past Lives book.
Exactly.
Arthur, that's that Arthur,
That's Arthur's book.
not the other Arthur. I don't know what this. I imagine this Arthur from this movie also wrote a boner book too.
Probably.
Yeah,
Well, I would have read it. He's a good guy.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like that guy. That good old Arthur. He kind of disappears in my half. He just kind of, whoop, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you know you're on the run from the FBI.
Bye.
That's it. See ya.
Yeah, that's
You know
a
what?
shame. I like Arthur.
That's what we say to you tonight.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.